Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Good evening. Today, we're going to address the colonizer mindset, one of the biggest problems, not just in America, um, across the world. Right, the system of white supremacy would not stand up if it wasn't for a certain class of people who are associated with raccoons. You know what I'm saying? Um, and their colonizer mindset perpetuates the behavior for various reasons. Number one, um, there's religious reasons, and number two, there are reasons of lust, greed, um, power hungry attitudes. We're going to examine that, not even by looking at America. We're going to 1804. We're going to Haiti or Haiti to look at what happened there. After that, we're going to beg the question: should foreigners benefit from FBA activism? We're going to look a little through Claude Anderson to find out, that answer. But first, let's deal with it. What is the colonizer mindset? Well, let's look back to Jacob Carruthers' "The Irritated Genie." If y'all don't have that book, I highly recommend it. Carruthers was a genius. Um, in 1804. Let me give you the short version of it. Now our brother Tariq Nasheed has a beautiful documentary on 1804. If there was one group of melanated non-FBAs that FBA should have bonded with, it should have been members from Haiti, but it didn't happen. Well, let's look at what happened first. Just in short, the island now known as Haiti was there was a great rebellion caused by a man named Bookman. Bookman, as Dr. Carruthers puts in his book, prayed to ancient spirits and to the spirit of Ogun actually, and asked for help. He first and foremost, Bookman went to the elders of the neighborhood, the elders of the island that would now known as Haiti, and as Jacob Carruthers put in his book, cast a spell on the French. Basically, they conjured the spirit of Ogun, the spirit of iron and steel. Well, long story short, out after that night of spiritual enlightenment, several leaders came to power. One of them, you know very well, named um, Toussaint Louverture. Another one that's not another leader, another general, right at Toussaint's side was Jean-Jacques Dessalines. Dessalines was equally as brave as Toussaint. Well, once Toussaint and Dessalines ran France up out of Haiti. Now, keep in mind, France was the greatest military of its time back then. It was, it would be like somebody running the United States of America out of somewhere, right? Running the Navy SEALs up out of like just running them out of an island. Well, once Jean-Jacques Dessalines ran the French up out of Haiti, um, there was a brief moment of consolidation. The melanated, the African, and mulatto class. Haiti was split into different classes. It was mulatto class. There was a mixed group of people, and there were the non-mulatto class. The non. Dr. Jacob Carruthers refers to them as the blacks. That's his words, not mine. Well, anyway, the mulattoes. Let me tell y'all a really interesting. This is off the subject, but it's very interesting. I recently found out from a really good friend of mine whose parents are from Haiti. Her mother's from Haiti. Well, the mulatto class when the French were ran up out of Haiti and the Haitians took over their own island, a large portion of the mulatto class said, "No, I don't want to be run by black people." Isn't that awesome? Isn't that awesome to just conceptualize that? Like they said, "I don't want to be run by black people." So they ran to the eastern part of the island and renamed it the Dominican Republic. So listen to me closely. From my understanding, from somebody actually from the region, the DR, the Dominican, and there are high tensions between Haitians and members of the Dominican Republic today for that. To my understanding, somebody please correct me if I'm wrong. The Dominican Republic was created by members who just did not want to be associated with Haiti. They did not want to be associated with a group of people, a group of black people who created their own nation. So they ran to the other side. Basically, they created a white neighborhood and put a country on it. Well, nobody talks about that shit. I'm gonna write that book. God damn it! I got a really good source. I got a source that's member of that class that knows all about it. And to my understanding, the Haitians like despise the DR because they're. I got to be careful what I say. I don't want to get my page.
One of y'all just trying to act innocent and put up shocked faces. She know she was just laughing.
Yeah, yeah. Well, back to the subject at hand. What's the colonizer mindset? Let's look at it. Let's look at this shit. So Jean-Jacques Dessalines, I like saying his name for some reason. General Jean-Jacques Dessalines. Um, when he ran ran the French up out of Haiti, the blacks, members of the group Dr. Carruthers called the blacks, and the mulattoes who stayed on the island of Haiti got together and conspired. They had the colonizer mindset. This is what Dr. Carruthers says. On page 107 of his book, he says, quote, the motivation for the murder, they murdered Jean-Jacques Dessalines. They murdered him. I'm going to stop right there. They murdered him because members of the blacks and mulattoes, now the mulattoes get all the credit for turning on Haiti. No, no, ma'am, no, sir. It was a mix between the blacks and mulattoes who said, "We want to be the new colonizer." They kicked the French out because they wanted their turn at colonization. The shit don't work that way. You can't make a deal with the devil. Every time you make a deal with the devil, you get fucked over. And when are we gonna learn this? Well, uh, when the French were kicked out, the blacks and mulattoes met with French leadership, and of course, French leadership wanted Jean Jacques Dessalines' head on a silver platter, so they had him murdered. Jacob Carruthers says, quote, the motivation for the murder was doubtlessly complex, as indicated above, since it involved a relatively large number of plotters. Look at that, a large number. It wasn't just a couple of mulattoes, and followers to carry it out. To recap, there were two prominent strands involved in the motivation pattern. Those who simply were greedy and wanted to gobble up as much wealth as possible at the expense of the masses, and who further wanted to reestablish a semi slave system similar to Toussaint's New Order, from which they would be the chief benefactors. Another feature intertwined with the first is a philosophical opposition to. Knock it off, Alexa. Um, Alexa's talking to me. Uh, I'm sorry, Alexa.
AI gone wild.
We didn't we talk about this the other day? Get out my business, Alexa. Hey, Alexa, go away.
Wow, girls gone wild has really taken a sharp turn.
So basically, the philosophical opposition to Dessalines' black nation with his anti-European ethos and egalitarian context. Now, what is he saying? He's saying that Jean-Jacques Dessalines, who gave up his life to free Haiti. Same with Toussaint Louverture. Same with Boukman. These people gave up their goddamn life to free these folk. Um, what Dr. J. Carruthers says is these blacks and these mulattoes in Haiti had a colonizer mindset, and they did not want a black nation. They didn't want that. They didn't want a free black nation. They wanted to reestablish a semi-slave system. They wanted their chance at being a colonizer. Ladies and gentlemen, that's across the world how this shit works. You get a bunch of melanated people who want their chance at being the slave master. They want their chance at being elites. Ladies and gentlemen, I moved from Memphis, those of you who don't know me very well, um, to Atlanta to be supportive. I'm gonna leave that alone. But anyway, and what I've noticed in Atlanta, unfortunately, um, I'm seeing a lot of that. I'm seeing a lot of that colonizer mindset. Now, we're not in IAT, the situations are different, but I'm seeing circles of uh, black looking people, and in some cases, FBAs, who are looking for their chance to be elite. They're looking for their chance to drive around in a Tesla, to drive around in a Maserati, and look down their goddamn nose at people. That is a pitfall, ladies and gentlemen. We do not get to be elite. Why am I bringing that up? Because that's the colonizer mindset. The colonizer mindset is, in order to be a king, you need a peasant. In order to be a noble, you need a knight. You know what I'm saying? And a lot of melanated people slip right into that hierarchy to get their chance. It's not about liberation. I'm seeing so much of that in Atlanta. It has nothing to do with liberation of blacks. It has to do with my chance at running the show, being the head Negro in charge. Wani, did you want to add anything to the colonizer mindset?
Oh, sure. I mean, I thought we were going to go into how it affects us, where we have a lot of people coming in scared to confront white people. As you notice, a lot of the Africans come in the room and they want to go back and forth with us and say that we're being racist, quotation marks, but they never go into those white supremacist rooms. Have you noticed that? They don't
Oh
go in
yeah.
there saying, "Why are you guys racist?" They think we're weak, low-hanging fruit that they can badger and complain to. Also, earlier today, I saw a tweet by a person from the Dominican Republic that asked Grok, "What does a Dominican family look like?" And then said, "What does a Haitian family look like?" And compared the two. So these people are, their claim to fame is being lighter skinned
Right.
than
Yes.
Haitians. I can't even discuss how lame they are. That's their claim to fame. That's all they ever talk about is how light they are. And they're not light. They're a range of colors, but whatever. That just goes to show you the colonizer mindset. I've seen them not want their children to play with brown dolls and push them away, and they want the white doll. They definitely have issues. They want to identify as Spanish. Spanish people live in Spain, and they're definitely not Spanish. They're Spanish speaking. They have a lot of colonizer mindsets, and they brought all of that stuff over here. And now our people have to suffer for it. Now our people have to listen to all of these anti dark skin comments, and we think that there's a revival in colorism when it's really just a problem of people needing to be deported because they're too ignorant to live in civilization.
Outstanding. Yes, it's very true. And like my inside source told me, the Dominican Republic, they are the same people as Haitians. The DR is full of the mulatto class who said, no, 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 I can't be run by dark skinned people. This shit's insanity. And if you look in the jumbotron, I put a hierarchy chart that I've put in there several times. That's the colonizer mindset. The word itself, boule, um, means in context of secret society means the advisors to the king. So the colonizer mindset set basically means you fall in line with the established order, which is unnatural. Let me say that shit again. It's, if you knew history, the established order is not natural. It's abnormal. And we'll talk about that in another space. But you have people who fall in that order who, if you look at the second tier is dukes, is the esquires, the lords, the dukes, the ladies, the clergy. Notice that the church is in there, high ranking church members. These people are advisors to the order, and their objective is to be above somebody. That's the objective. That's the colonizer mindset. Is I don't care about justice. I don't care about righteousness. I care about being above somebody. I've had, guys, that's one thing, no matter how screwed up my life gets, and it's gotten screwed up. I've had a hard year, but I can always be proud that I've turned down, I've had a hard year, but I've had so many opportunities to slip into this hierarchy and be a fucking boss. But I've turned them down because I think that my highest calling is to serve my people. It's to serve the least of these. I don't give a damn about being above anybody because we're all really equal in the end. But That's the colonizer mindset. Now, I mentioned religion earlier. Religion, according to Dr. Francis West Welsing, has been used to perpetuate this paradigm, particularly with the white likeness of Jesus to Christ. Momentarily, I'll find a picture I put in the Jumbotron scores of times before of the likeness of Jesus to Christ that I saw in West Africa, of a very lily white Jesus with stringy hair. um, According to Dr. Francis Quest Welsing, that is a weaponized. That's a using religion to support the system of white supremacy. In other words, it colonizes religion. And Dr. Francis Cress Welsing's logic was very simple and beautiful. Her logic is, if God is the highest um, order of being, and God is white, and if I'm not white, then I'm less than God. If I'm less than God, I can be used by God. So basically, you associate God with white skin, and unconsciously, you fall into that same pyramid that you see in my jumbotron of, wait a minute, he looks more like God, so I need to do what he says. Or like Wani was saying, that fucking mental illness in the DR of, I need to be lighter skinned. Wani, I don't really follow Dr. Michael Carr that much, but Michael Carr said something about the Dominican Republic that really tickled me years ago. Dr. Michael Carr of Howard said, in the Dominican Republic, he said, the darker the skin, the louder the Spanish.
I remember hearing that.
Oh yeah.
That's something else. It's very unfortunate. And like I said, I think that when we have them coming over here, they have all kinds of issues with their the opposite sex, and they bring all of their baggage over here, and we start to believe that we hate each other. Well, oh, these men are doing it. We're starting to think that we have mega colorism problems and huge divides between genders, and that's them.
Yeah, we never have.
No.
FBAs have never. Listen, I hope y'all heard what Wani said. I hope y'all heard that clearly. FBAs have never had colorism problems. We have a long legacy of rape, particularly in the American South. I'm a I'm not gonna call myself a victim, but I have been affected by that. My big mama was raped on Aniana in Aniana, Alabama. What I'm trying to say is, foundational Black Americans are the only group that I know of that, like my mom, like my aunt, both my aunties, have tried actively to marry the darkest man possible to get rid of light skin. My mom went and married a jet black man, and both my aunties married jet black men with intention to try to make chocolate babies. I see that. I see the inverse of that in the world. Isn't everybody? What's the word in Spanish? Meta la raza.
Right.
We don't have that problem.
We have had colorism problems, of course, being victims of uh, slavery and then the overarching attitude of white people. It's normal to say, if I'm lighter, I'll be treated better. It's normal to feel that way. But we really did a hell of a job of fighting against the whole thing because they tried to make those tiered things like Creole, mulatto, and all, octoroon. And that was held on to in Louisiana, but just wholly rejected by most people. And like you said, uh, uh, our the way that we look shows what our mating and our marriage has been based on. It's just been based on liking a person. We certainly didn't try to marry the lightest person or marry white people. We continue to make ourselves brown, brown, brown. So that's what we want. Other people had different ideas. And the sad part about it for them is that there's no white people there to marry on they're usually the majority of their countries. So there's not a big glut of, if there was a whole lot of white people on the islands, they wouldn't exist. But there are not a lot of white people there for them to marry. So that's why they are eager to get off of those islands and get out of Africa so they can glom on to the first white thing they see. We Black Americans, we live with white people. If we liked them that hard, we would be white. That there's no doubt about it. If we liked white people that hard and had their mindset, we would look a whole different way, or we would just be white because we have the access. We go to school with these people, we go to college with these people, we live around these people. There's no way we would have survived if we had the attitude that they have about color. But they have never even been around white people, most of them, other than tourist areas where they, do everything under the sun with them. They have the attitude and we don't. And so, therefore, we have survived, and we had all the say it loud, I'm black and I'm proud, black pride, and black is beautiful. We do need a booster shot, though, because we have these infected people around us that hate being black.
Yeah, we're being infected with outside ideologies, and we need. I'm tempted, ladies and gentlemen. I've been tempted to try to start a school system for foundational Black American children. Everybody else has one. We need one where we need to be reflecting, where our children need to reflect on us and the things that we've done. We need to know our own culture because outside, I'm witnessing. I'm an '80s baby, and in my lifespan, I'm witnessing outside ideas coming in to rip us to fucking shreds. And somebody needs to defend the line and keep our children, let our children know our beautiful history. But in brief, these ideologies are outside, they're foreign, and they're dangerous. I'm not a biblical scholar by any means, but any academic can, and if I see a lesson in it, I'm gonna run with it. And one lesson that I've found in the Helios Biblios, the Bible academic canon, is a lesson of Cain and Abel. Remember that Cain, according to that myth, um, learned murder from the city of Nod. Like he didn't know murder just because he knew murder. He learned how to kill because he went somewhere else. You know what I'm saying? So what's the lesson? The lesson is don't adapt. Um, be careful about adapting foreign ideologies because they may not be for you. They may not be for anybody. There are places in the country, in the world that are fucking been fighting for thousands of goddamn years, just knocking each other upside the head for thousands of years, and they make um, stories out of it. It's cute to bash women upside the head. That's their culture, and that's for them. That's not for me. That's not for my kids. We have our foundational Black Americans have our own beautiful culture, and we need to we need a revival. Like Wani said, we not only do we need a booster shot, we need a revival of Black American culture.
And
Well,
that's why we're having a renaissance now.
amen. I wanted to kind of identify before we move on why um this is my theory. This is not, this is theory based on fact. But my theory as to why as a colonizer, why does the system of white supremacy, why does it have such a powerful influence over people? Why does less than 10% of the world, I think 7% now, Dr. Welsing said it was what, 8% back when she was living, and it's dwindling. Why do they have such a powerful effect over over world cultures? Well, this is my theory. And this, again, is not fact, it's just a theory. I think that human beings, on some level, are looking for an authority figure. They're looking for, or in other words, what I'm trying to say is, some human beings perceive abuse as leadership. um, and if you look back to um, Dr. Michael Bradley's book, The Iceman Inheritance, which is a must get. I would get it before it disappears. He talks about um, the power of the European, and Bradley says this the quote, the significant characteristic shared unequally by the group being the Caucasians, is aggression. He says, our works and our values reflect aggression. Our technology is aggression directed towards the natural world. Like I said earlier, it's unnatural. The order is unnatural. But Europeans, throughout their ethnogenesis, have, uh, in a way, they were forced into an aggressive posture, just outright aggression. And I think certain cultures view aggression as, what word am I looking for? As power. Like, oh, he's more aggressive. He's more vicious than me. Whereas foundational Black Americans have never viewed aggression as powerful. Power. If you want to bring aggression to us, I mean, we can be. Our men can be the most aggressive. Like Dr. John Henry Clark said, the black male a war machine like you've never seen before. They're still studying us in those swamps, in great dismal swamps. They're still studying foundational Black American warrior men. Hannibal was one of the greatest generals of all time. We prefer not to be aggressive because we know that the real mark of power is love and understanding. That's power. It's easy to knock somebody upside the head and take their shit. It's hard to try to understand where they're coming from. And in my view, foundational Black Americans have always viewed love as a true source of power. But I digress.
I agree. Now, when we speak of should foreigners benefit from FBA activism?
No.
Well,
Hell no.
and it's not just that we have done activism to make scholarships and schools for ourselves. I'm not even speaking about that, but they shouldn't benefit from that because I've seen some of the winners of these scholarships and they weren't even of African descent. They just had straight up Arabs, Indians, Chinese people, everybody was up in there because of that BIPOC scam that I never fell for. But one of the things that I resent now, because I don't think they deserve anything, I don't think they deserve basic human rights because they never fought for them and they disrespect the people that do humanitarian acts and fight for these rights. And that goes for like a lot of Middle Eastern women. They told me when I was trying to work with Middle Eastern women that were being so called abused and getting FGM and their children were being married off, I tried to work with them, and they were like, "Oh well, Western women, they have women's rights. How come they're not helping us when we get a rock thrown up against our head?" So I said, "Oh, there's a need. Let me help." But when I started to work with these women, they literally turned on me and said, "Our men take care of us, and all of your men are gangbangers." And we're all, prim and proper Muslim women. We don't need any help. So they ask for help, and then when you try to help them, they turn on you and all of a sudden getting their vagina sliced up and getting hit in the head with a rock seems to be okay because they'd rather throw me under the bus. So I started to think, I said, you know what? I don't have the right to put a template on them when they don't have anything to do with it. You can't just have a whole legacy of fighting for women's rights, the right to get educated, the right to have a bank account, the right to vote. You can't just put that on a whole nother group of people who didn't fight. They need to have their own journey. That's like if I would go on a spiritual journey and come to some conclusions about who God is and then go, "Hey everybody, this is God, everything's okay. I've already done the work for you. Here, go." They're going to say, "Oh, wait a minute. Let me go on my journey and I'll let you know who I think God is and the way you should do it." Now, I can tell you about what happened, but I can't put that template on you because you've come from a different place. Even if we come from the same background, I can't put that template on you. So, certainly, a Black American woman living in the West, never from a Muslim background, not an Arab. I can't put the template of what Black American women have done. And they also have women's rights confused with feminism, which is not the same thing. Feminism is a whole nother animal and it doesn't have anything to do with women's rights. It's just a persistent group of people hanging around hating on men. It has nothing to do with basic rights, which they never fought for their own children's rights. They allow men to have sex with little boys and these bachabazi things. And these things are not just in Afghanistan, but they're pretty widespread where they abuse little boys. They abuse and marry off little girls. They sell children. They do things against women, as I just mentioned. They have never fought for any of these rights. And when you try to help them, they go against you. So I don't feel that they should come here and even have the right to pull a woman's card like Kamala did. Kamala pulled two cards that she had no right to pull. She pulled the woman card. You're not voting for me because I'm a woman. Her people have never fought for women's rights for anything. She just drug her foreign ass over here and benefited off of real women who fought for those rights. She's not of African descent. She's not Black American. She never fought for rights for Black people. Neither did her mammy or daddy. They're from a foreign country. They don't have anything to do with American civil rights. And she also claimed she didn't get voted for because she was black. She pulled two cards that she doesn't own, has no right to pull. And so, no, I don't think they should get any rights because they've been very manipulative and ungrateful, and they don't deserve anything except a deportation.
Right on. Robbie Blue, what's on your mind, bro?
Good evening, good evening. Shout out to you, to Wani, to Sister Nikki. I'm on my way to pick up my stepdaughter, but when I was going to circle back to something you were saying about how they've convinced people to kind of low key worship them or like, you know what I'm saying, give them more respect in terms of like white folks. And the only thing I could think in my mind was God, beauty, intelligence, and bravery. Like first they depicted themselves as God, and they picked that up. They realized that that was a powerful tool in terms of subjugating, you know, future generations of people to see them, you know, to associate them with a deity. But I think in modern times, especially with these other people with their low self-esteem, and I can even think in just in my upbringing, you know, through television, they would show, you know, a lot of white athletes as being brave or chivalrous. They'd have John Wayne, you know what I mean? They have James Bond. Just subconsciously, that always would show us white heroes, you know. And then in terms of beauty, we don't have to go there. They would always, you know, try to make white women the standard of beauty. And then most recently, there's been a resurgence of this whole intelligence thing. It's like it's funny because Hitler and them 100 years ago were big on the intelligence thing, and now all of a sudden, you know, they keep talking about IQ, but a lot of them don't have great EQ. They're definitely not, you know, balanced chemically. But those are the things I think. I just think God, beauty, bravery, and intelligence. If you can basically corner the market and make people believe that white, you know what I'm saying, white people are dominant in those areas, I think it can have profound psychological effect. And I'll land my
Oh,
plane.
so true. So true. The beauty market, the market of beauty has been the biggest weapon. It is underrated. Nobody talks about how beauty was used as a weapon. Standards of beauty, when actually the black woman, if y'all just be real, the black woman represents the pinnacle of beauty, of femininity, just from body shape, just body shape. I mean, everything that is a woman is represented by the black woman. I mean, I don't even need to say anything more. I wanted to say
Those fertility
yep.
sculptures and yeah, the fertility sculptures really show the curves, and they are definitely not the way that white women look. I mean, like I said, they can say whatever they want, but we said what we wanted, they said what they wanted, and white people were not enslaved by us. We didn't impose anything on them. They came to conclusions that they wanted butts and lips and brown skin. They came to those conclusions based on the fact that they just look good. We have issues from being under, enslaved. So we had to work our way out of their standard of beauty, but we held our own. And we said, no, we don't think flat asses and pale skin and all these things you're pushing are good looking. I mean, if you look at their bottles in the 20s, 30s, and 40s, they really were pushing these pointy nose features, but they gave it up. And over time, those features become rounder and rounder and rounder and gotten away from those sharp faced women that they first propped up as beauties, the flat butted, the swimsuit. and all the rest of it. They got off of that look.
Yeah, Dr. Tom Wolfe, um, who was an alleged, let's say a suspected white supremacist, wrote, and a brilliant writer, by the way, of Yale University. Dr. Tom Wolfe, in his masterpiece. I think if I had a school, every black kid would read Bonfire of the Vanities, because Bonfire of the Vanities give you the whole picture of this white supremacy thing. I might hold a space on it, but in Bonfire of the Vanities, he supports that white standard of beauty that Wani was just talking about, that angular, skinny, pale, frail thing. And according to Dr. Tom Wolfe, by his own words, he called that those women, and this is his words, not mine, quote, boys with breast. Let that swirl around for a minute. We're gonna go to 7th Ward.
Oh, hey, good evening, y'all. We were talking about, the black beauty of, the black beauty of women. Uh, yeah. So one of my mom's old friends, uh, she later became a teacher. My mom's a teacher, and all her friends were teachers. But one of her oldest friends, she was an opera singer, and she lived in Germany and Switzerland, and and she was talking about how she was living there, and she had her hair plaited down her back. She used to wear those summer dresses that they wore at the time, and she's just walking down the street going about her business. And she told me them white boys couldn't contain themselves when they saw her. They really like black women, but they try to fight to suppress that urge. So yeah, I yield the mic.
Go ahead, Robbie.
Yeah, I was going to say, well, the interesting thing, even though now, you know, per capita now you have more plastic surgery, just when I think about layman terms, just as a layman growing up as a kid in the 80s all the way to being in the military and just traveling around the United States, the average Hollywood starlet, the way those white women look, they get brush photos, or even if they are quote unquote pretty and they're that one out of, I don't know, 10,000 that reach, a beauty standard to be a model. The average white woman doesn't look anything like that. It's like you're getting catfished. Like, that's what I'm saying. Like, white people as a whole have gone on this rebranding campaign. They do it about every 50 years. They want to make themselves seem like they're benevolent. They basically use selective kindness to disarm us. I mean, this even has worked on me in the sense that, we don't want to be cynical and be off on the deep end and be like everybody, is absolutely adherent. But in 2025, I'm finding less and less evidence to believe that there's enough good white people or any good white people, because if they're good, they're cowardly and they don't stand up. So therefore, they're good for nothing. But when it comes to, like, the average black woman would give Beyonce a run for her money. You get what I'm trying to say? Like, we don't have to look at television. You know what I'm saying? To be like, oh my God, we can walk outside our door and see the standard of beauty. And that is why you'll have so many women that'll check you out at the gym or hate on you or have all this passive aggression. And as you guys were talking about the lips and all that, I even see that on the app. Like, a lot of women that are from California or certain other places, it's amazing that they can even be conservative. Like some of these conservative people on the right, by the time they put all that stuff in their lips and do all this stuff, they don't look human. They look like a ghoulish creature. They look like a caricature, like an exaggeration. You get what I'm saying? Of not even a black woman. I don't know what you call it. It's like Jay Leno with a fat lip. They got a long chin, a big forehead, weird looking lips. But in their mind, you can't tell them any different, that that's not beautiful. Because I guess what they're saying is, well, if we're gonna go big lips, I want my lips to be bigger than a black woman's, and if we're gonna go big butt, I need a saddle. At some point, even an elephant's ass looks like it stinks. You know what I'm saying? There's a difference between having a fat butt and being just fat. You know what I'm saying? Or being a grotesque, ghoulish creature. And I'll land my plane.
Oh
Facts.
wow,
Yeah, I've seen them walking down the
that's a
street,
lot.
and I've looked at them, and it scared the shit out of me because they didn't look human. Their faces look like stone sometimes. Don't they look scary? They look real scary when you
Well,
see them in person.
You know, it's so funny when they started getting the lip implants, they tried to tell us that these were European lips. Right? Oh, these are bee sting lips. Really? Is that what we're saying? These are European lips because some Europeans had some African admixture, but they didn't want to talk about that part. Anyway, they tried to play it off. They don't want us to know, oh, we're just trying to look healthy. That's why we're getting a tan. Yeah, now you look like luggage.
Wani, in the late 90s, let me just say this real quick. I think the only thing worse than a woman being embarrassed with stuffing her bra with tissue paper, going through puberty or whatever. I seen the look on this one white woman's face when I went to the strip club with some of my friends in the army. At this time, I guess they've improved the silicone, but I swear to God, her butt and her boobs felt like stone. Like everything was big. You're like, oh my God. And as soon as you touched it, it was like cold and stony. And you could tell she felt embarrassed. I don't know if anybody knows what I'm talking
Her
about.
butt,
I don't know what they call it. It wasn't,
her
it
butt
wasn't
was hard.
it was yes, because she had silicone. She had silicone implants that were hard. I don't know whether they've improved the technology now, but she literally, you could tell the impression on her face was, I felt like I touched a corpse. I said, "Oh," and she said, "Okay," and then she moved along. I said, "Wow, man, you over here catfishing?" You know what I'm saying? We gonna get back over here to the sister that's got it jiggling like a bowl of Jello. You know what I'm saying? She's just walking. She's just walking around and we see the jello swinging. This woman is overdoing it. And you're thinking at first, like, your appetite, you're like, oh, wow, she's voluptuous. And then you just touch. And my homie's like, bruh, that shit feels like cement. I don't know what's up. Maybe they've changed it now. Maybe they made them balloons. But I just say, at the end of the day, be proud
I
of what
don't
Jesus gave you, not Dr. Jesus. And I'll lay my
I
plane.
don't know what kind of implants they put in your butt. I think they're supposed to be hard, I think they're like the chest implants for bodybuilders. They're solid, I think. Cause
It's fix a flat, fix a flat.
yeah, cause I don't think they should put liquid in there. Cause what if you're sitting on it, right? That wouldn't be good.
My boy Young Dolph said I can tell if that ass real or fake by how she walk.
Well, sometimes the butt doesn't match the thighs, and that's very crazy
Right.
looking.
Right.
Dang, Sister Wanda, you stole my joke. I was about to say
Oh
that
my
because I just
God.
seen one. I seen one today when I was coming to the store. I was like, "Ooh, these BBLs is killing y'all." This lady, oh Lord, she thought she was just the shit too, trying to walk right past me, back and forth and shit. I'm just trying to get some taco seasonings and shit, trying to make something for dinner. I'm just looking like she just don't know how ridiculous this shit looks. I mean, I'm telling you, it was like watermelons on toothpicks. I was like, what the fuck is going on here? I don't know. I was like, good
That's rough.
lord. I was like, yeah, but then to the topic though, these colonizers and mindsets, they do this because they know what type of individuals we are. We are individuals who are resilient and we don't need much to thrive. You could throw us in the most hellish place on earth, and somehow, some way, we will turn that shit into a goddamn metropolis. And for number two topic, from FBA Activism, I think we should just, activate and be activizing and incentivizing for our own lineage. Point blank, period. And Sister Wani, just to let you know, even though I follow people who don't like you, your name is always protected around me. I love you, Sister Wani. And you too, Professor, I appreciate your book. I'm finna indulge in it soon. Just been working on this plantation trying to get my life together. And how you doing, Sister Nikki? I see you over there. God bless you. God bless the greats.
Peace.
Love, peace, reparations, delineations, and deportations.
Oh yeah, and if any of you want a copy, thank you, Capone. If any of y'all want a copy of my book, I still have copies remaining. Go to Our Story Publications. I'll put in the jumbotron shortly. Put $25 on the Cash App and your full address and zip, and I'll send it out to you shortly with the next batch. And several of you bought a copy earlier this week. You should receive your book in the next several days. In addition, I'm gonna put Wani Spots and Nikki the Gods on Cash App. Show them love. Now, if I may get deep with you guys, I want to get deep with my people because what one thing I wanted to do to take us a step further is well, there's a saying. Go ahead, brother.
talking about a school, you can start doing that, having your little sessions, just on the spaces just for children, just to get it started until real structure gets made. We could do some crowdfunding. I wouldn't mind helping. You know what I'm saying? Let's just get that moving, because, like you said, I see it in schools too. Because my sister's a school teacher, and he has nothing but sisters. So I try to get my nephew as much as possible when I ain't working.
What?
And the shit they teach this motherfucker, I mean, like in the times of COVID, they was telling him like, "Oh, don't do anything Trump. It's Joe Biden." And then I'm looking at this lady. She got the LGBTQ all I letter Z's all over the motherfucking classroom board and shit. I said, "Oh no, hell no." And then my nephew, there's one teacher in there. She cool. She played both sides of the fence. And she comes to the cookouts. White lady, cool as shit. She's all like, you guys are really a sharp family. Like, like, look, lady, this is what we do. We see the bullshit, we call it out for what it is around these parts. And they just get so fascinated with us. But yeah, I see the intellectual thievery and veils they trying to put on our children, and we need to step in front of this post haste. And I land on that.
Well, I'm gonna get tactical
Oh,
with you.
this.
Go ahead, Nikki.
I am so sorry my mute mic was off, but I did want to say, and I'll talk to you about this on the back end. We can do some classes on Zoom, and start the school that way. I'll do it. I'll start it with you because I got a
I
lot
would
that I
love
want
to
to
join.
teach.
Oh yeah,
Yeah.
we're gonna talk on the back end because this got to happen. I'm noticing that education, and our brother Neely Fuller said that 9 areas of operation: education, labor, law. Y'all know the rest. Um, Religion, sex. Well, education. What I've realized is the symbol for education in America is a tree. And education is like the root. Like, ooh, it's important. It's very important. We need to teach our own children. Now, what I wanted to do, ladies and gentlemen, is stand on the shoulders of giants. There's an old saying: if you stand on the shoulders of giants, you can see further ahead. So I'm standing on the shoulders of Dr. John Henry Clark and Dr. Amos Wilson, Dr. Francis Cress Welsing. What did Dr. John Clark say? Dr. Clark said, and I'm paraphrasing our dear brother, he said, it's time for us to get away from emotion and get back to hard sciences. Dr. John Clark also said, it's time for us to leave these charismatic people alone and go to just some, lame science based people. It's time for that. Now, I may be a little charismatic, but I'm a social scientist and I want to get scientific with y'all right quick. I want to tell y'all something out of one of my favorite books by uh, Robert Greene called the 30. He wrote the 48 Laws of Power. He has another good one called the 33 Rules of War. Woo-wee. Well, listen to this one. He says, being attacked is a sign that you are important enough to be a target. You should relish in the attention and the chance to prove yourself. Foundational Black Americans, not only are we a target, we are the motherfucking target. Period. So my question to y'all is, who are we really? Why is the world?
We must be the gods. I'm so sorry. We must be the gods.
That's logic.
We
We
are.
must
The
be the.
sun love us, the world love us, and we ain't gotta hurt people to like us.
Right. So I'm saying what we need to flip in the mind of our children. We don't even have to do anything complicated. All we do is deal with truth. In the mind of our children, let them know that since they're a target, they're important. You don't. I mean, you don't give a fuck if somebody's insignificant. You don't give a fuck. I don't even notice insignificant people. No disrespect, because I think everybody's significant. I'm not a bigot. I'm not. I don't think I'm better than anybody else. But when somebody's not a threat to me, or not not attractive, or I don't even notice them. Like somebody say, hey, look at her. Oh, hey. But what else does Robert Greene say? He says some deep shit. He says, um first off, I want to give my foundational Black American family, our lineage, a pat on the back, because we're on the right track, ladies and gentlemen. The system of white supremacy, as I identified in my book, is so big you can't see it. So imagine if God was standing right in front of you. You couldn't see him because he's so gigantic that you couldn't make out a shape. It's kind of like when in 2011, I was in Birmingham and an F4 damn near F5 tornado came through and killed 200 and almost 300 people, and we couldn't see it. We didn't see the tornado because it was over a mile wide. We just saw this whole sky was black and green looking. It's like, what the hell is that? And mail started falling out the sky. And some of my neighbors picked up the mail, and the mail was from Tuscaloosa. Tuscaloosa's 50 miles away. We were like, oh man, that's a tornado. Let's get inside. The tornado was so big we couldn't make out a shape. Well, what does Robert Greene say about what? Why am I saying this? Let me give you context. To somebody saying, "What the hell is Professor talking about?" I'm talking about the system of white supremacy, ladies and gentlemen. It's so big you can't see it. It's so big that we're scratching our head like, "What just hit us?" But Robert Greene gives us a tactic. He says an enemy is often large and hard to pinpoint. An organization or a person hidden behind some complicated network. That's his quote. I'm saying, like the system of white supremacy. Robert Greene also says, what you want to do is take aim at one part of the group, a leader, a spokesperson, a key member of the inner circle. We are doing right. We are doing, I don't know if it's intuitive. I don't know how we knew to do it, but to delineate is metaphorically, and we don't condone violence, so don't anybody try to flip my words. I'm just saying the delineation between these Nigerians and people in our circle who are adjuncts or auxiliaries to the system of white supremacy. That's a good first step. First, identify who are you? Why are you here? Why are you at my university? What I would like to see is a movement, a nonviolent movement, hit our historically black colleges. Wink, wink, nod, nod. Where what's a polite way of saying it? We separate ourselves in our legacy organizations from people from outside lineages. How in the fuck are we helping people that aren't our lineage? How is that even happening? And we're not helping our own children, right? So, in conclusion, um, delineation is a really important part of what Robert Greene was saying. That's starting at one point. Once you start at that point of delineation, everything else is going to reveal itself. I digress.
So, do you think that the fact that Quetzalcoatl was a white bearded man and they really were into this guy as a god, that when white men came around, they just believe that this person was godly, even though he was doing evil things? Do you think that may be part of it? Because I really do think this cargo cult mentality, where a foreigner sees someone that has either better technology than them, or like what happened in the Pacific Islands when the white men flew their planes over and landed on the island and they hadn't seen them before, or they happen to worship a god that is white or that they think is white. Do you think that may have something to do with how effective the European has been? Or do you
What
think it's just straight up brutality, beating breaking them, mentally breaking them into
it?
going along with it?
Did y'all hear what Wani said? That's so important. It's a combination thereof, Wani. Um, Brutality is what's the way of saying this? It's the it's was perfected amongst white people during that young Dryas. Those of you who don't know, young Dryas is the ice age. They had to be brutal to survive. Brutality became a norm, according to Dr. Sharshy McIntyre. Well, so that was a skill, it was a talent, if you will. So what the European learned, this is the power, Wani. The European learned that information is power, and the European used that brutality to extract information from sacred groups all across the world. Credo Mutwa talked about it in Africa, in South Africa. He said that, and this is his words, he said that the Illuminati came out of Europe to Africa seeking out shamans and sacred people and would torture them until they told them sacred secrets, and then they would kill them. Well, allegedly they didn't get all the information because some of our ancestors would rather die than give it up. But back to Quetzalcoatl, if you read, was it what was the book? Fingerprint of the Gods, I think. No, it wasn't Fingerprints of the God. It was one of Hancock's book where he talked about South America. The Catholic, or let me say it this way, factions of the Catholic Church went all through South America, killing, extracting information. Remember, information is power. The information of Quetzalcoatl was taken from Mayan text and from Aztec text, and their texts, according to Graham Hancock, were burnt, and it was reinterpreted by the Europeans. Now I wonder, Wani, because I've been down there as you have, and I've seen sacred texts written in stone, and I've seen pictures of the Quetzalcoatl, the snake bird, the Karist. And snakebird Quetzalcoatl was rainbow. The what I see written on tablets in Costa Rica and in Mexico is that the snakebird was multiple colors. He was like a rainbow. But when you read the white man, the Europeans canon, he says he was white. So I wonder, did the Catholic Church get all the information about Quetzalcoatl and reinterpret the rainbow snake bird into a white deity to support the system of white supremacy? If that is what they did, it was brilliant. It was evil, but it was brilliant.
And I think that maybe just being different, like being a different looking person, might have something to do with it because people do stare at you when you're different. You know what I'm saying? Like if I go to a basically Central Asia, they don't have people that look like me there. So they're looking like I think that the white man may have gotten the gasp factor where they just there I think it's complex as you say, and I do think that they really deify them, and we have had close contact with these people. We know them inside and out. And
Right.
as a result, we are just not enamored with them. And I think the people that are the most enamored with them in this country are people that don't have that exposure to them, that have lived in isolated communities away from them and have formed opinions about white people without living with them in close proximity. We have little, you know, enclaves where it's very segregated. They do have a different attitude toward white people than someone like me because I just don't look at it. They're just like they're socially insignificant to me. They're people that just walk by. I don't deify them at all. I mean, I don't know. They're not a big deal to me. And when someone says something about getting a white man, I almost laugh because to me, getting a white man would be like a last ditch, effort. Like if all else failed, and there was no one else left to pick from, type thing. But from their perspective, it's like something that they would want to do first before trying their own men. From my perspective, I would use that as a last ditch effort or just not even choose anyone if that was the only choice because I really do know what's going on with them. I really do know how they feel. And like they can be nice, and these are not bad experiences that I've had. I just know that ultimately, under the surface, that attitude exists, and I don't want to deal with it.
It's a wanting, that's part of our power. Well, I'm fascinated by our power because I'm not really sure where foundational Black Americans power I'm not sure where our power originates from, but uh the true source of our power, other than Almighty God, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, the all, whatever you want to call him. I listened to Jordan Peterson today, and Jordan Peterson said it doesn't matter what you call God; it's irrelevant. Because he still is. But anyway, Wani, back to the point at hand. We have been in the house of this person. We know him better than he knows himself. Why? because his ancestor, the Europeans' ancestors, did him a grave disservice by telling him he was superior. When Europeans really ran the show is when they were attached to truth, when they knew their stance, they knew recessivity, they knew the truth about the Moors. That's why they treated us with such harshness. They knew where they stood in the natural social hierarchy. Well, they gaslighted their children and their grandchildren into thinking they were better. I went to my dad put us in a really high performing high school to save my life because a gang was taking interest in me. I'm gonna leave that alone. And a couple girls was liking me, and dudes was put a hit out on me because a girl liked me that I didn't know nothing about girls. I was playing shit. But anyway, my daddy put me in a really well high performing high school, and I bonded with a couple of white people who I'm still colleagues with to this day. And I remember hanging out with, and one of the white guys is a one percenter. And well, I'm not gonna say he's a one percenter in the world stage, but he's a 10 percenter. His grandmama owns slaves, they're millionaires, blah blah blah. Birmingham, Alabama has a lot of money. Old money. And I remember when his grandmother was living, they saw him kicking it with me. And his grandmother asked him, warned him, like, don't you think he's going to be jealous of you? Me being jealous of him. But they imbued the generation of white children who are now millennials and Gen Xers with a sense of superiority that doesn't exist. I'm sorry to say this, but as an educator, I haven't seen superiority along those lines. So you have a lot of confusion going on now. You have a wait a minute. Why are they here? They're not supposed to be here. I'm better than them. Dick Gregory said the likeness of a black looking president, Obama, destroyed the fabric of America because they were told that they weren't supposed to be in that position. So they've been done a grave disservice. The black, what's on your mind?
What's going on, Professor
Hey man.
Nikki, Warner, everybody in the room? Yeah. If you look back at certain older cultures, like if a child is born with an ailment or he looks odd, oddly different from the rest of the tribe, they usually turn him into a deity or some type of god. And uh, when you compare kind of what the Catholic Church did in Mexico, you can compare that to like what the Tennessee Valley Authority did to a lot of the Michigan relics that they found when they was digging a lot of these uh, rivers and different like waterways, and they kind of manipulated that the translation of a lot of those
Right.
and just labeled them as forgeries and stuff because they didn't want it like people to see that the people that was here previous before the Mongol Native Americans actually had a language and some type of system of intelligence. So I just kind of find it funny that that connection that everywhere they go they do kind of manipulate the indigenous
Can
written
I'm gonna
language.
interrupt you right quick, brother, because you really hitting on a point. Oh, well, never mind. Let me let you land your plane. I'm not gonna interrupt you. Go ahead, man.
No, no, I was done. Like I was just gonna say, everywhere you go, they send out the so called missionaries or the Catholic or the priests. And, missionaries. Those are the people that seek and destroy first and bring back the information, so the real warriors can come and take charge and take over.
Yeah, in the name of the Lord, and if you look at what the Lord means, that's who was the Lord, Wani? Was it Moloch?
Ball, Mola.
Baal. Yeah, isn't that
And
the
there,
Lord? Don't mean God. It doesn't mean Allah Subhanahu wa Taala. It doesn't mean the Creator.
I mean,
Mm.
the gospel means stories of war. So what they were spreading some war.
Oh, we go deep.
Yeah, and I didn't want to interrupt the black, but he brought up a really good point that I really wanted to piggyback on. The point that black brought up is the European goes, and I want y'all to write this down. The European goes into places they have a mantra of I'm an explorer. That's a thing. I'm an explorer. What was that explorer do? That explorer goes in a
Rape.
church too. Oh yeah, that's warfare. That's warfare. But that explorer goes and finds out the truth of what's going on.
Reconnaissance.
What'd you say, bro?
Said they doing some reconnaissance.
They doing reconnaissance. You goddamn right. And let me give you a real good example of it. When I was a child in middle and high school, I was told that when the Spaniards met with the Mayans, it's written in those damn books, Harcourt Brace and those school books. When the Spaniards met maybe some of y'all heard this too, but when the Spaniards met the Mayans in Tenochtitlan, which is now Mexico City, not the Mayans, I'm sorry, the Aztecs. When they met them, they brought them flowers because they thought that the Spaniards were gods, right? Well, I went down there. We spent some time in that jungle because we were renewing our wedding vows. But anyway, we spent a lot of time in that rainforest and met with the actual descendants of the Aztec. A lot of them folk look black, but I'm gonna leave that alone. Because you don't see them on TV in Mexico. I'm talking about they look like me. Their hair was different. But anyway, um, I digress. The reason why I brought that up is I found out the real story that everybody down there knows the real story that the school books have warped. So check this out. The school books say that when Hernando Cortez got off the boat on his horse with his sword and walked up to the Aztecs thought of him a god, a white god. So they brought him flowers to adorn this god. That's what I was taught. Well, I found out from the people actually who lived there, whose story had been passed down for about 1,000 years or 600 years or whatever. The real story is this: when the Spaniards got off the boat, they had poor hygiene and they were so stanky that the women of the village gave them flowers around their neck. So when they got around Montezuma the king, they smelled appropriate. That's how our educational system is warped. It's warped and skewed to support the system of white supremacy. We need our own goddamn educational system. I don't think any of this shit is salvageable.
Hey, Professor, you know what's funny about that? Shit, they was the conquistadors. They was the ones that was eating each other and eating bodies, and they tried to say it was the natives.
Right. Right.
They got stranded and say, "Hey, we ain't got shit else to eat. We done ate all the horses and shit. They don't want to give us no more food. Hey, we're gonna eat each other. Last man standing. That's why it was only two people left.
Which is what all they dumbass had to do was cast a net and eat fish. They dumb.
God, why do I don't understand cannibalism. That is gross.
Yeah, it's a whole
There's too much work.
What do
So
you
that's why
Man,
I
people
don't
can eat
understand how
beans.
can
If
they
there ain't
be
no
in the
meat around, eat
fields.
beans. You don't
Yeah,
have to eat toes and fingers and
get a
arms.
right.
You
can
can
of
eat
Yeah, they
beans.
beans.
gonna make some mutton stew, some thigh stew around this motherfucker instead of going and go catch a boar or something in the woods. But
Get a
they quit to kill you and eat you.
plenty of fish, plenty of bunny rabbits bouncing around.
Right.
You should find
The
a slow bunny rabbit.
Dr. Ivan Van Sertima identified those tracks, those pathways. They're jet streams in the Atlantic Ocean that lead from Europe to Africa. I mean Europe to what do you call it? Like where Brazil is, South America, from Africa to South America. He says once you get trapped in those streams, you like on an expressway going straight to Brazil or to South America. And Van Sertima said once you get trapped when you get trapped in that stream, so do fish. So all you gotta do is reach down there and grab fish out that motherfucker. Just craziness, man. This is another thing I want to say to support black. I noticed something when I was in graduate school. I noticed a trend, and there's some called Chucalissa in Memphis, Tennessee. There's a Native American reservation on that Mississippi. That Mississippi is special, y'all. Well, That for the last 40 years, Chucalissa had a Native American family, like a residency. It was a family that lived there, that had the oral history, and they had a house there. It's kind of a nice house on the property. They slept there, and there for room and board, they would tell their story. As tour guides. Well, by the time I got to Memphis, it was like they were being put out, and Chucalissa was being taken over by the University of Memphis. And I noticed that because University of Alabama was taking over the reservation in Tuscaloosa, as with so many universities have been are taking over Native American museums, and they're whitewashing them. They're taking out the brown skin of the natives and they're making them white. We're at war, ladies and gentlemen. Education.
Hey, Professor, that's why Joe Biden made passed a little law year before last, the Native American burial ground law. So if you do buy some land and you so happen to find some bones or artifact, you got to report it to the government. They got to report it to the Native American tribes, and then they decide whether it's they people or not, even if they don't do DNA tests. So they could just hide and say, "Yeah, these are people. We don't
Wow.
know you."
Yeah, it's all part of a conspiracy to support a narrative that's not true. Well, this is a house of cards and it's going to tumble. Graham Hancock kicked a hole in this goddamn house of cards, the shit falling to pieces. He found out that what's the name, wanting, what a Neanderthals.
Denisova,
Uh,
knuckle
I
drag.
think that was them. Then so that they had advanced technology that destroys the narrative. So why do they have advanced
Oh
technology?
wait, that wasn't Denisovans.
It was one of them. I'm not good with that.
Neanderthal.
With maybe it was Neanderthal, but they found a pot that was shaped with some type of advanced tool. So how they know how to do
I
that?
don't
Oh,
know.
say, Professor, 3 months ago, Smithsonian said it's a little new link. I think it's like a triglo fluoridite, something like that.
Excuse me.
I'll post the video. Yeah,
Let
it's a
me
new
know.
link.
I
Yeah.
gotta collect up all these because we keep finding new hominids, and yeah, we don't know how many hominids were running around before we busted out and became Homo sapiens, but it's more than expected.
Well, I ain't never heard no triglo fluoridite. Like
I
they
gotta
just be
look that
coming up
up.
with the
Hold on.
craziest names.
The higher you go in this system, the more corrupt it gets. Ladies and gentlemen, I worked at the Smithsonian Institution right out of undergrad. I worked at the Museum of the American Indian when it was brand new. Um, it was such an honor. I was so honored to be there. The best museum in the world and the system in the world. And when I was at Smithsonian, my fucking museum itself was over $1 billion institution. And I'm in a network of museums, but I saw a lot of cover-ups. And I began to wonder, was the Smithsonian an institution for academic research, or was it an institution to support a fucking narrative in support of the system of white supremacy? Mr. Freedom, what's on your mind?
Wow, 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 wow. This is definitely an interesting conversation. Spine tingling.
Thank you.
Yes, thank you for bringing me up. Uh, okay, so I'm gonna I'm gonna forego trying to sound deep and get into all these different highfalutin words and things like that to describe it, and I'm gonna just keep it simple. I hope everybody can appreciate how simply I can break this down. Okay. Um, I'm not saying I know 100%, but I want to connect something that might answer some of the questions. If you look at how let's say, the universe, the cosmos, our solar systems, um, our the way everything is connected, there's an interesting similarity. And what makes us so unique, I'm talking about us people that are high concentration of melanin, is that we're able to literally, through a divine connection to what's outside of this planet, here on the surface where we are, we're able to mentally create whatever we want from thought. And then when we speak it, it becomes a physical It literally becomes from thought or energy, and we create that vibration, that sound wave. It becomes matter at that point, and that's another word synonymous with matter is mother. All right, and atom or atom means blood, and atom. Okay, so again, I'm talking about the science behind the allegory of religion. Simply put, what we think, and especially when we're having copulation or the sacred coming together, that type of Big Bang of having intercourse or sex, we can, if we purposefully do it and align with the stars, we can incarnate and create gods and anything that we want to create out of seemingly nothingness. That's the power. That's the magic. That's our bodies are literally heaven, and we create gods.
I agree with you, but in between that, we have to be careful to not speak negatively. We have to watch what we speak
Facts.
in between that, so the negative stuff doesn't come true. And I think as adults, we've all struggled with that over lifetime because sometimes people can set us off. But what you said is magical. Continue, please.
Oh, well, I'll make it. This might. I hope this doesn't sound like too fanciful, because I try not to. I try to keep rooted. There's some people that's way out on the deep end, but something came to my realization recently, as I'm starting to head towards 40. I realized that the same comets that you see that come into our atmosphere, and it's sort of it's literally the same as like sperm that's going towards the ovum, and there's a barrier there as well. And so I always go back to seeing, and there's actually some ancient scripture about this too, that there are literally minerals that uh, help to impregnate the primordial waters here on this planet, and that's represented by what's in that black box in the Kaaba, in Mecca in Medina, that all the Muslims and everybody goes to. There's a comet that everyone kisses, and it's in the shape of a Vesca Pisces, or a vagina actually. It's interesting. It's a comet that everybody does a procession around, where they talk about circling the square, and they kiss that comet because that's how life was moved there. To explain all this is like there's some kind of, not in a vulgar way, but there's some kind of operation that is sexual, where a comet or a meteor touches down on the earth, and the, let's say, nanoparticles, or just think of it as like sperm, it impregnates, and life actually sprouts up out of that. If you could imagine, it's the same way as having sex with sperm and the zygote and all of that in the egg.
Yeah. You said something very powerful. You said that matter is mother. If y'all think of what you call your college, you call it my alma mater. That's nurturing mother. So you saying some really deep stuff, bro. Real
Yeah,
interesting.
that's all I wanted to share. Not too deep. I hope I didn't go too far. I hope I just kind of, you know, put that little thing. If you think about what's happening out there, it's the same thing. That's all it is. Y'all have a great night. Peace.
Yes, sir. I appreciate it as usual. Robbie Blue, what's on your mind?
Uh,
Yeah, it's kind of hard to follow that one. I'm not sure if Key Osama wanted to go. All I was basically going to say was, um, initially, what I was going to say, just when we were talking about the conquistadors and all that, when we think about things in terms of time frame, I just want people to consider this when we're dealing with Europeans when it comes to deception. They were willing to take 2 and 3 and 4 generations to carry out, like you said, somebody said it earlier, like they went there for scouting, and then they started, colonizing. So what I'm saying is they're patient with their deception. Sometimes we think a deception or a con will just take a day or a week or 6 months. Imagine people for 2 or 3 generations saying, we're going to sit here, lure these people to sleep for 20, 30 years. And then before they know it, not only do we have them surrounded, but we have a military advantage. And they basically have helped finance their own destruction. To me, that's diabolical. You know what I'm saying? But that's what I mean. Like, I think sometimes we really don't understand the commitment to wickedness and how just far people are willing to go with deception. I mean, that is beyond an Oscar nomination when you can take, you know, you can say you want a peace treaty, or you can live amongst people for 2 or 3 generations, knowing that you're gonna subjugate them and basically genocide them. Isn't that kind of crazy?
Yeah, it's that's their history, and there's a book that's disappearing, ladies and gentlemen. I've talked about it before, all across the country, called "The Shaping of Black America," written by Lerone Bennett. Lerone founded one of those magazines. I don't know if it was it Jet or Ebony, maybe Jet. But the Shaping of Black America talks about that in there. He talks about how Columbus identified the red Indian as a slave. The European was looking for a slave because he knew that he couldn't do the work to build the nation that he wanted. But Columbus identified the Arawaks, the Reds, and when the King James's men got here and tried to enslave the Powhatan, Pocahontas's folk. Pocahontas was a princess. Um, it didn't work out like they thought. So what Lerone Bennett talks about in his book is Europeans, ladies and gentlemen, enslave themselves. They turn on themselves and start stealing children in Europe. I'm talking about Germany, England, Ireland, and they spent damn near 100 years perfecting the cruel slave trade on their own children. And if we knew that, we would treat them differently. We think that they just got us and knocked us over the head and knew what to do right away. No, 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 no. They perfected it on themselves. Lerone talks about how they went to the fucking prisons in England and would get women, and they experimented. They took hordes of women from the prisons in England, took them to Jamaica, and breeded them like animals with African enslaved men to try to create a race of slaves. The Europeans tinkered for 100 years on how to perfect the slave trade, and like Robbie said, that's not normal thought. The normal human. That's not normal. Kiyosama, if I skipped over you, I didn't mean to. Go ahead, Kiyosama.
Hey, nah, you good, brother. I wanted to touch on two quick points really quickly. The first one is the question of this group: what is the colonizer mindset? Dr. John Heinrich Clarke explains that as domination, exploitation, and the erasing of indigenous cultures and histories. And the reason for doing that is to change the narrative of history to justify oppression. Right.
Right, you there,
Uh,
bro?
Yeah, my bad. The second point I wanted to hit was I know you were talking about curriculum reform. When I graduate, that's one of the first things I want to do is construct private freedmen institutions with a totally reformed curriculum. I think that's like the first thing we need to hit on.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah,
Prior,
that's all I had to say.
it's
Good talking to
priority.
y'all.
Oh yeah, but Kiyosama, follow me, man, and yeah, we'll talk because I already did it in the jumbotron. I'm creating a curriculum, a series of history books. That's my area of expertise. Although I'm looking for a math teacher because we need numeracy as well. But these school books are ruining kids, man. They're and I don't want to hijack the space to talk about education. I tend to do that, but just know that the school books are designed in a way to destroy the self. Monty thought that was fun. All I'm gonna say is they're designed in a way to destroy the self esteem of black children, and it's very clever how it's done. Um, I don't know if Fresh wanted to speak.
Fresh.
Hey, Fresh, what up?
Hey guys, I didn't want
Hey.
anything.
No,
Hey
I
Nikki.
invited her up. I just invited her up.
Okay.
Yes,
I,
I'm just here to hang out with you guys and spread some love.
okay. Yeah, I don't always see
Pretty
hands.
fresh and fresh.
Yeah, you can stay up here fresh because I invited her to stay up here.
Oh yeah, you're more than welcome. I just on my end, I don't always see hands. I can so if you want to speak, hit the hand button again. If you want to contribute. Um,
Will do. Thank you.
okay, go ahead, Black.
Yeah, I just wanted to add. I posted a video for you. One I couldn't put it in the chat, but I put it in jumbotron. And another good book that break down like these degenerate white people and how they kind of experimented with themselves as indentured servants and criminals, selling each other is Thieves, Takers, and Generals by Gerald Howson. He break that down real good. And and another thing about what Robbie said earlier, if you look at like the creation of most of these major cities across America, they started off as like trading posts, and they didn't start beefing with the so called Indians until probably like a good 15, 20 years later, when they got enough settlers to trick and try to make it into the inward land and settle and beef with them, and then as always they lose it, and they gotta have some Negroes come back and clean up both sides and kind of like beat up both sides and make them calm down and re-civilize them and give them some houses and stuff. That's kind of how the Buffalo Soldiers end up getting involved, because we was most of us was already free, but at that time we were just looking for a better part of the so-called American pie, which it still didn't work out for them because the Buffalo Soldiers that they had buried in Texas, they they dug them up and moved them, I think to Louisiana somewhere, because they didn't want it to become like a place where a lot of black people start gathering around trying to honor them. So yeah, these people just disrespectful and degenerates.
Well, I want to give y'all keys to yeah, what I try to do in my spaces is give my people ways, useful ways to look at this system, so we can get our land back. Well, again, I told you that this is in a way the system of white supremacy is an occupation. I mean, it's a not occupation. It's a war. Nellie Fuller said we're occupied. We're prisoners of war. So I want to give you some keys to warfare. Um, of course, we're talking about nonviolent warfare. Wars are fought in different ways. Well, according to Robert Greene, um, the system of white supremacy is not directly hostile. It's not. It's indirect. That's what drives us crazy. That's why you know we lose our mind dealing with this, because it's like, what's wrong with you? You live in the best country on the planet. What are you complaining about? It's indirect. Robert Greene says people hardly ever attack you openly, showing their intentions, their desire to destroy you. Instead, they are political and indirect. Although the world is more competitive than ever, outward aggression is discouraged. So people have learned to go underground, to attack unpredictably and craftily. I watched Brother Tariq Nasheed's space the other day, a recording, and he was talking about how the system of white supremacy has done exactly that. It's gone underground, and it's become crafty and unpredictably, like whoa Vicky. And we're seeing a lot of people talking about that, yo yo yo, what up, what up, what up, yo, what up, man, what up, like acting like they're us. Be very careful with that, ladies and gentlemen. I will not let. I almost cussed out a teacher the other day, coming up to me, kind of like trying to talk to a big old white man, trying to talk to what you know to me. You don't get to do that to me. I don't trust that. Robert Greene says many use friendship as a. This is very important to us FBAs. Many use friendship as a way to mask aggressive desires. They come close to you to do more harm. There goes your diaspora right there. Hello, hello, I'm your friend. No, 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 no. Well, we need to be our own friend. Or Robert Greene says, or without actually being friends, they offer assistance and alliance. They may seem supportive, but in the end, they're advancing their own interests at your expense. Then there are those who master moral warfare, playing the victim, making you feel guilty for something unspecified you've done. The battlefield is full of these warriors, slippery, evasive, and clever. So that last thing I read um, goes to the spaces, the part of space that says should foreigners benefit from FBA activism? No, 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 no. Robert Greene says many use friendship as a way to mask aggressive desires. So a lot of these people that want to be our friends are actually aggressive. And friendship is a mask. FBAs, we need to learn to make strategic alliances based upon tangible gains. You do this, I'll do that. That's what other groups do. They make alliances based upon tangible gain, not based off on morality. And I think it's time that we do the same thing. We're going to go to James, and then we're going to Captain. Go ahead, James.
Peace to the room. Peace. I'm sorry, I'm losing my voice, but to speak to the title of the room, what is the colonizer mindset? And to be honest, right now, it's Umar Johnson.
Uh-oh.
And to give that perspective, in that, I say we wouldn't have had no idea who Umar Johnson was if it wasn't for Jason Black North, like white men do. They use prolific black men to push an agenda, but try to mask it as, "Oh, I'm here to help you," as like he does, And then, and I say that because I've donated to him once I saw him in 7 a.m. with Jason Black, and just to see the things that was going on right now. This isn't new. I've heard this 10 years ago from a brother in South Africa when he went there. I didn't want to believe it at the time, but here we are. And and like I said, and for should foreigners get money from FBA activism, only if they have the mindset of Kwame Ture and our land.
Well, brother, just can you try to explain to me, and you may have, and it went over my head. How does Umar Johnson have the colonizer mindset? Number one, and number two, explain what Kwame Ture's MO is.
Well, with Umar colonizer mindset, I wouldn't say a colonizer. He's trying to adapt it by using black men to pushing another agenda
How so?
for I would say more so for himself. And that's what the white supremacists do. They take us. He hasn't done anything physically damaging, but far as him not being there for his kids and him lying to us about the school things that's going on, making up lies for so many years. And and it's just and I would say he's using the community.
Hmm. Yeah.
Far as
Go
I
ahead.
mean, does that make sense? I don't.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. I kind of see what you're saying now. I have a colleague. She is actually my boss at the college, last college I taught at, and she was a single mother from Philly with two children, living in Memphis. Didn't know anybody in Memphis, and I watched her with a full time job managing me and 200 other employees. Um, put together a school, an idea for a school. She used to be a principal, but she put together this school idea in a place she hadn't even been a year, Memphis, and she implemented the school idea and had the school basically. She found a building, secured funding, had politicians, had a board of directors. In less than a year, in a place she didn't know, with two kids, no husband, you know what I'm saying, and had the school about to be up and running by the time I left Memphis. So if she could do that in a year and a half, and y'all never heard of her, where is Umar's school? Is it up and
Right.
running yet? And I'm asking.
Well,
I'm not.
it's almost, it's he just got to do the HVAC, y'all. He's just work. Y'all don't know he just working on the HVAC and the air
Yeah, he
conditioning
trying
and
to find
stuff,
a
y'all.
black owned
Come on.
business that work on HVAC, and you know he had that asbestos in his building, so he had to take that wall down and redo that. So he and then he said the city was fucking with him, and he got to pay some back taxes. They were trying to take the building away from him, so y'all got to donate. You know what I'm saying? That's why he went over to Ghana to get some of that rice aid, cause Trump was gonna turn off the aid.
He's a descendant of Don King.
He's a
Yes.
descendant
And
of
Absolutely
don't forget
Don
the
right.
King.
flag, young ninja. Remember his flag? See the flag, young ninja? It took him 10 years each strike, young ninja.
Craziness.
Okay, we're gonna have to have a space tomorrow morning about.
Look, I still love Dr. Umar when it comes down to talking about race mixing. I feel like he's the best person to
But he
get.
likes
He's a
Right.
snow
great motivational
bunnies
speaker. He will make you run away from snow bunnies
Yeah,
and
he's
think
good with
twice.
because
that.
he
Yeah.
wants them all.
Yeah, that's cool. He
Man,
can have
that
them.
He
dude
wants them
He's
all.
crazy.
trying
Him
to
and
get all
Sotar
the
can have
snow
them all.
bunnies.
That
Long as
makes
they stay
sense,
on code.
Wani.
One in
That
I
makes
Philistine.
gotta
sense
send
what
out a
Wani
memo
just
to them.
said.
Look, I
I
know
love
Dr.
Dr.
Umar
Umar
gonna get him a
too.
white girl and make them watch Roots, like old dude did that kidnapped the white lady that disrespected him. He forced her to watch the whole series of
That's
Roots.
a
That's Dr.
punishment.
Umar. I know he gonna train them.
They're gonna be
They gonna have on all the koofies. They
you're
gonna
gonna
be
be
Rachel's daughters
trained,
off.
okay.
Dr. Umar, my superhero.
Okay,
Okay.
so if a white boy snatches a black woman, how do they train us? What do we have to watch?
Nah, y'all just dead. It's over with.
Y'all watch Get Out.
No, that's
Nah,
not
nigga,
right.
In the help.
they just
You
dead. They
gotta
gone. It's
you
over
gotta
with.
make
That's Buffalo
No, they
Bill
watch
from
the help.
Silence of
make
the
them
Lambs.
watch
It's over
what?
with.
What?
No,
They
Wani,
make
you
you
gotta
watch
watch Friends.
Friends.
You
They
gotta
make you
watch
watch
Friends.
Friends.
Oh, oh
You gonna be
wow.
watching
That's
Friends while he
violent.
cutting your
Now
skin
that's
off to wear
violence
it.
right there.
Yeah, friends, yeah. Or
That's not
Seinfeld.
about man. Listen, no.
They gonna make you watch Seinfeld.
Sorry.
Hell
Wow.
no, you watching Happy Days while they cutting your
Oh,
skin off to wear your
Hey, I
face
ain't
as
gonna
a
lie. I
that's
mask.
used to
rough.
watch Happy Days sometimes at night before I had to go to sleep before Mad came on.
Oh my God, you guys are picking the harsh ones.
Hey, when Mads come on, it's time to go to sleep. Ain't shit coming on after that. They gonna have the little
Wait,
lines on the
you too
TV that
young
said,
to be talking about that.
I'm a 92 baby. I got the leftovers of
Mm-hmm.
what y'all got.
Mm-hmm.
So I still got
You,
to experience some of the,
Leftovers.
the good old days when the world was still normal.
oh wow, you know Mash. Yeah, you definitely an old soul.
Yeah, for real. I was like, yeah, when you hear that motherfucking song come on, it was a rap. Turn the TV off. Ain't shit coming over. Bruh, I was from the era where the TV just cut off though. When the music was coming on, that was the era I started watching TV. I'm an '80s baby, so I got the dun, 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 dun. When
Oh,
you
when the
heard the
TV
national
come back
anthem, it
on
was a
at 4
rap,
in the morning,
nigga.
say
No
that's when my
cap.
papa get up and be drinking his coffee and TV come on. That's when TV got to
Bruh, it was
start.
a rap,
And
and
he
then
be
it went
doing the
straight
pledge of
white
allegiance
noise.
to it.
Yeah.
And to answer you about Kwame Ture,
Uh.
how I would say he was vetted. He went around colleges, speaking black empowerment, trying to uplift our people, helping our people as well as Martin Luther King, as far as immigration as well. So I mean, what we thought meant well,
Got
but
it. I got to look into Kwame. I got a book by him. Somebody donated a book. I got to read it. But yeah, I hear good things. So about the colonizer mindset, I put some in the jumbotron that we talked about earlier, but I try to get visuals from our visual learners. In the right, you see a picture of Jesus to Christ, the likeness of Jesus to Christ in West Africa. That picture I took myself. I saw it all over West Africa, from Togo to Accra, Ghana, to Cape Coast. I kept seeing it and trying to ignore it. And somebody who was with me was like, "Well, you just take a picture of it." So I finally took a picture. I mean, I saw it 9 times and tried to ignore it. We drive past and somebody say, "Man, look at that big old white Jesus." And I'd be like, nope, didn't see it, didn't see it. I tried to block it out, but that number one, the canon of Holy Bible describes Jesus, the Christ, as hair of burnt bronze and I mean skin of burnt bronze and hair of wool. That's pretty clear to me. But if you needed more evidence, it talks about Egypt. He hid in Egypt. Egypt was jet black back then. I mean, you can't hide in Egypt unless y'all know where I'm going with this. Um, so given that fact, that not saying, I'm saying the fact is the book says that describes Jesus the Christ as such. Why would Africans worship a Jesus the Christ that's opposite of what the book said? That's that colonizer mindset. It's an attack. They have been attacked. Their idea of divinity has been attacked, and as Dr. Francis Cress Welsing put so eloquently, there's nothing higher in the mind of a human being than the idea of an Almighty God. And if you think the Almighty God does not look like you in any way, shape, or form, what does that do to people who look like you? When you see somebody who looks like you think they are less than God. Therefore, that is a state of colonization, uh, a very intense state of colonization. Now, if y'all look on the left, that I took was in Memphis, Tennessee, in the ghetto at a CVS. And you notice that these uh, magazines, Time Life or whatever, the TV magazine, is always facing um, people as they walk in the store. It's very highly visible. And it has a likeness of Jesus the Christ again, looking nothing like what the Bible describes him as. And look at the words right there. The words say the chosen. There is a supposition there. The supposition is somebody who don't look like you is chosen. Therefore, you're not chosen. That is psychological warfare, ladies and gentlemen. He's chosen, you aren't. You're less than divinity. You're less than God. Therefore, God needs to control you. Who is God? God is a white man. We need to recognize war when we see it. FYI. All right, ladies and gentlemen, a couple more speakers, and we'll call it a night. Anybody else want to contribute?
We have a couple of people that want to come up, but there's no room on the stage. So,
I'll step down. But Professor,
I'll drop down.
check your text message when you get a second. I sent you something.
Yes, sir.
Thank you so much. You have a great night.
You,
Peace.
you too, bro.
Professor, what's going on, man? Hey,
Hey,
what's
hey,
going on?
what's going on?
Hey, man, everything is great, man. Everything is great. Just out here maintaining, you know what I'm saying? Maintaining, man. So, peace to everybody in the chat, by the way. I'm glad y'all out here doing y'all thing, making time to be on Twitter. So, just to speak on the topic, the colonizer mindset. It's a parasitic mindset. That's what I would have to say about it, man. It has to depend or feed off of something else. I think it's spiritual, it's metaphysical, and it's physical. I think it's like all three. Um, yeah, it causes separation. Malfunction in a cognitive ability, and I think it has a lot to do with sugar because parasites feed off of the sugar. And then when a parasite is it's not inactive, it just turns into a cyst, and it usually just like sits there, but it's inactive. Yeah, so
That's
that's what I think it is.
that's very fascinating what he said about parasites feeding off of sugar. I taught environmental science one year in Memphis, and me and my students did, and we call it the Bay, but it's Fraser. It's a very low SES, very poor neighborhood, and in Fraser. um I taught my students about the effects of poison on the human body and whatnot, and what they analyzed blew my mind. Now, these children in the ghetto, they was the most brilliant children I've ever met. They said, Dr. A, um, these on every corner they're selling intense sugar. And one of the little girls said, Dr. A, what is alcohol? And I was like, it's an intoxicating liquid. She said, no, sir, it's sugar. So sugar increases violence. So is it intentional? We also found out that a lot of the factories in Memphis are in the black neighborhood, just like everywhere else in the United States. And the law says that factories can expel a certain amount of PCP into the atmosphere. So, you know, is the violence that exists in our neighborhoods manufactured through intense amounts of sugar? And one of my students also said, you know what? And if the alcohol is not enough, the corner stores are selling candy, you know. So that's something to think about, you know.
It's also in the grocery stores. High fructose, excuse me, guys, high fructose corn syrup is really highly addictive. It's also not natural, not organic. And so it also causes a lot of health issues. Excuse me, guys.
Right, right, right. Very true.
I got a question, Professor. Since the Earth can be considered like a living organism, right?
Mhm.
And it's it's supposed to be a tropical planet, right? Since because our body supposed to be like in what 101, 102, right?
Mhm.
Yeah, okay. Just run with me with this. Yeah, when you catch a cold, don't your body overheats and try to get rid of the virus?
Yep.
So like, do you think like winter is natural to the earth?
I don't know. I don't know. I've heard so many different things. I've heard the Young Dryas, the ice age came from a comet. That's the going theory is a comet struck the earth so hard that it knocked it off its axis and created a wobble. But I've been reading lately that it wasn't a comet. I got some wild shit I'm about to blow your mind with. I was reading that. Well,
Because I don't think like when you say like, okay, since a cold is like a parasite or something that our body is trying to fight off, so it overheats to kind of like extinguish them parasites. Sometimes it makes me think like the earth been trying its best to naturally heal itself by going through what white people call global warming and stuff. And I kind of feel like this why they so fearful of this because the ice caps are melting and soon it's gonna be like go back to a tropical type of planet. So
yeah, yeah.
who
Well,
will be the only
well.
people to survive?
I don't know about that theory, but I do know that the aircraft have been trying to block out the sun, spraying, the chemtrails. They're spraying them in direct line of the sun. So why are they doing that? You know, it's something to think
Yep,
about.
they know something.
Yeah, they know something. Well, I was reading that a theory that there was a guy, Edward Casey, is a clairvoyant. Long story, but a government respected clairvoyant psychic, and no education, just had an experience, was walking through the garden when he was a child, and he said some angels, he was struggling in school and saw some angels, and they told him to put a book on his head. He did it, and he was making straight A's all of a sudden, blah blah blah. Then he would go into a trance state, and people would come and ask him, how to heal their cancers and stuff, and the government took notice. The government took notice of him, and anyway, long story short, look them up. It's a whole bunch. There's a institute, the Casey Institute in Virginia, but Sigmund Freud and Carl Gustav Jung, who stole their information or borrowed their information from Egyptian texts and the Vedas, knew something about Atlantis. Rudolf Steiner, the Germans. And they went to Sigmund Freud went to Edward Casey, put him in a trance, and asked him one question: "What happened to Atlantis?" And Edward Casey talked about an advanced civilization in perfect harmony with God, or um, the All Father, in perfect harmony. Advanced anti-gravity, like Star Wars, ships flying around with crystals and blah blah blah. Long story short, he said they were introduced to some brotherhood of Belial, like a Baal, Belial, whatever, and they were corrupted, and there was a great war, and the weapons of these cultures, Atlantis and Lemuria, destroyed the planet, knocked it off its axis. So I don't know where winter came from, but it's a lot to think about. I'm not sure if it's natural. And last but not least, I have witnessed, friends of mine have told me about chemtrails trying to block out the sun, and I've witnessed it myself. I witnessed planes flying over, spraying some type of material, some type of it wasn't a contrail. Contrail's condensation. It's water vapor going through the turbines, heating up and turning into steam, but it goes away. Whatever they were spraying condensed and blocked out the sun for some period of time. So why are they blocking out the sun? Why are people like Bill Gates allegedly pushing GMO foods? I don't know what's going on, but I know something's going on. Last words go to Righteous Anger, and we're gonna call it a night. What's going on, Righteous Anger?
Peace and reparations, family, will come when we get it, which should have been 2 fucking seconds ago. Um,
Amen.
what is the colonizer's mindset? Bullshit. Should foreigners get money from FBA activism? Uh, no. You guys said so many good things. The last thing I was trying to get in, it kept kicking me out. I don't know if everybody else was having a situation with this site today, but you can't keep a good sister down. But for the comment about that satanic, uh, what's her name, Cynthia and Revo? Is that the
Yep.
yeah? Look, she could portray Jesus. I don't give a fuck because the one that she's portraying isn't ours. So if the white people want to get down with that, they can go off. You see what I'm saying? So as for me and mine, I'm not even jumping in that shit. Let her play the Jesus that they put up in front of us. It ain't my Jesus, so they can have at it. But great space, peace.
And to follow that on, if I can may follow that sister and get deep, I read a whole lot. The book of Enoch talks about Satan as white. The Memphite theology in Egypt, the original story of the virgin birth of Aset Asar Heru, that's attributed to the story of Christ, the Charis, the bringer of gifts. In that story, God, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, was a God of the perfect black, Asar, named Osiris. So black is good. Darkness comes out of light. Light comes out of darkness. Not darkness don't come out of light. Well, let's get deep, ladies and gentlemen. Y'all ready for this? I'm gonna give it to you. Here you go. In the book of Enoch, Satan is white. Um, and it makes sense. If you look at the word Lucifer, what does Lux in Latin mean? Luz means light. Fur means bearer of light, bearer of white. Look at those pictures of Jesus in my Jumbotron. Like I said, the Bible talks about Christ. It says Jesus had skin of burnt bronze and hair of wool. That those two characters in my Jumbotron have skin of milk and hair of string. They are the exact opposite of the biblical description of Jesus. So my question to you is that Jesus or is that Satan?
It's the blue-eyed devil, my boy.
Teach. Teach.
Hey, and if I was a devil, what greater hoax would be to walk around pretending like I was Christ and
Blue-eyed devil.
have these Africans worshiping me? It's a mess,
Damn
Captain.
dumbasses. Woo! I'm so sorry,
That's why
Professor.
that that's why I said it's like I think it's parasitic because it's like we got strong bodies and we conduct a lot of electricity if we believe in what melanin does, but I also feel like with them maybe just depending on what I read, their body isn't that strong enough to handle whatever meteor thing you was talking about that you briefly mentioned earlier. But yeah, that's what I think about it.
All right, guys. In conclusion, I'm about to close the space down, but I wanted to tell you one thing, and I'll let Captain have last couple of words. The word enemy comes from the Latin word inimicus. Inimicus means not a friend. Your first task and this come from Robert Greene quote, your first task as a strategist is to widen your concept of the enemy to include in that group those who are working against you, thwarting you, even in subtle ways. Um, that ideology we just talked about in Africa is full of people who are not our friend. It's the opposite. That Christ figure is the opposite of what's described um, in both Helios Biblios and in ancient Egyptian text. Um, Satan or Set Typhon in the Egyptian world was the opposite of Osiris. It was his little brother. Osiris was a god. Asar was a god of the perfect black. Set Typhon is the opposite, the perfect white. So I think it's pretty clear who those people in that picture are. The colonizer mindset, ladies and gentlemen, in my conclusion, is a satanic mindset. Captain, last words, and then we'll head out.
I just want to say, good space. Haven't heard from y'all in a while. Been training and working and stuff, and going through a little divorce issues. But great space overall. Glad to hear back from you guys.
Yeah, stay strong, brother. A lot of people are going through divorce. Yeah,
Oh yeah,
it's the way it is now, I guess. But
yeah.
last but not least, I'm gonna leave y'all with Robert Greene. He says, "Arm yourself with prudence and never completely lay down your arms, not even for friends." Black people, stop letting your guard down. Dr. John Henry Clark said, "If you want a friend, look in the mirror." And guess what, ladies and gentlemen, y'all are my mirror. You're my reflection. We're all the friends that we need. I love y'all, and I'll see y'all tomorrow. Any last words, Wani?
Good night.
Nikki?
Good night.
Ladies and gentlemen, you can purchase my book by going to Our Story Publications in the Jumbotron, putting $25 on the Cash App, putting your full address and zip code. I'll show Onthespotts and Nikki to God Love and their Cash Apps as well. I'll see y'all tomorrow. Good night and peace out.